And hey everybody, welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. I am Michel Bryant here for the balance of the afternoon session. Jane Doe number 4 in the Kellen Winslow II trial. Remember, there were two events, and this alleged victim is different than the others in that she goes back to 2003 for these allegations. One encounter was allegedly consensual, and the witness on the stand says so. We just heard her describing that, and then says 2 weeks later, not such consensual activity. So that's key for this particular alleged victim because it's very different than the others, which were much more contemporaneous, and it happened within the last year and a half. So with me is Dr. Carole Lieberman, forensic psychiatrist. And Doctor, first of all, thank you. I'm glad to have you here. And if you have 50 minutes on your couch, I'll be right with you. What I want to find out is when you have somebody that is alleging that a consensual event took place and that at some point it became non-consensual, not on the same time, but 1 week to 2 weeks. What is the mindset? How does the jury help understand how a mind can change during circumstances between the two people, as it did in this case?
Well, of course, there is the tendency to think, well, hey, she was was fine the first time. Why did she have a problem with it the second time? That does kind of go against her. But then if she's explaining the reasons why, I mean, of course, no should be no. So he, on the other hand, shouldn't have just assumed that because she did it once that she would do it again.
Yeah, and I think that's the old analogy that even a prostitute can be raped just because at one time it was consensual and another time it certainly was not. In this case, I think it gets a little even more unclear because even in the first encounter, which you just talked about, it was consensual to the point that a third person was kind of injected into the mix. And at that point, she said, no, I don't think so. Her testimony was that Winslow at that time seemed to be okay. I mean, he wasn't happy about it, clearly. I think his testimony was, are you going to let me finish? And she said no, but he didn't go nuts. He didn't get abusive, physical or otherwise. That was telling to me. What do you think about that?
Well, but at some point, he said something about the bitch, she's only a bitch, or there's some statement like that, very derogatory towards her, very degrading. So it's not like he was a total angel. Yes, did he get worse than the other Jane Does that we've heard, that are more contemporaneous? Absolutely. But you could see he had an attitude, a degrading attitude towards women even back then.
Let's take a look now at some of the testimony from the second event. This is Jane Doe number 4 in the case against Kellen Winslow II. This is her description of what happened 2 weeks after the consensual event. So there's Jane Doe number 4 in the trial against Kellen Winslow II, describing her second encounter with the former NFL star. With me is Dr. Carole Lieberman. Doctor, I'm just going to ask you, you've seen her mannerisms. Obviously, you can't see her face and some of those nonverbal issues, but tell me what you get from her demeanor, her emotion.
Well, she's obviously credible. That's the thing. All of these women have been really credible, and they're each a little different, but the significance of having her involved altogether in the trial shows that he has had this attitude, as I was starting to say before, towards women, even way back then. He wasn't, so it didn't just occur, or it's more believable with these more current women that he would continue to do this kind of same pattern. She's credible in that sense of bringing this history and this pattern to light. But the other women who, especially Jane Doe 1 and 2, the defense is trying to make them seem, well, the first one is mentally ill and the second one was homeless and all of that. And so they're trying to say that we shouldn't believe them because, these are their issues. When, in fact, they are credible as well. Yes, it's unfortunate that they have these other issues, but that doesn't mean that he didn't rape them. I think when they told their stories, again, with their problems because of their lifestyle and so on, but still, they were believable as well.
Yeah, it's certainly, I've said this many times, that the fact that the prosecution was able to bring all these cases together, one little light spot in one testimony beefs up the other, and as a group, it is pretty powerful stuff against this man right there, Kellen Winslow II. We're going to get back into the courtroom to catch up on some of the testimony you might have missed. Just to remind you that the case in Timothy Jones, they are done, and we're going to get back to the Brenda Delgado case in Texas when they get some technical issues figured out there in the courtroom. And there's Jane Doe number 5. Remember, she had multiple encounters with the defendant, allegedly, and this was the first encounter where they were using, I guess, exercise machines that were near one another. I'm still confused as to whether they were facing one another or side by side, and she looked over. But she is the one that's related to the counts 9, 10, 11, and 12, the lewd conduct, 2 counts, cruelty to an elder, and also battery against an elder. These are the lesser of the charges. Dr. Carole Lieberman's with me. Doctor, as a forensic psychiatrist, tell me, what impact does the difference in age of something, she's 77 at the time, 78 now, maybe culture, and her perception of what was going on at the gym with this defendant?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that Kellen has mother issues, mommy issues. Other than the Jane Doe number 4, who he was involved with sexually in college, all of these women are older and represent, I'd love to have him on my couch and have a field day with what it all goes back to something in regard to his childhood and his mother.
Is this some sort of Oedipal complex, or what? I mean,
yes.
Is that what it is? Something like that? So it seemed to me, I thought this early on, and all we can see from Jane Doe 5 is her hands, and she goes to the gym forever. She's been doing that. It's possible she looked younger and maybe better fit the demographic of the other mid-50s or late 50s women that are, again, other alleged victims in this case. What do you think?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, she has nice jewelry on. Her nails are well groomed. She goes to the gym a lot. Yes, she was obviously well taken care of. It almost seems like there was the other woman who was in her garden and so on. Clearly he has these sexual impulses that he acts out on in various settings. I think the fact that there are, I shouldn't say surely, but it seems likely that there are other women as well. If the prosecution was able to put together 5 women from these various times and places and so on, clearly it would seem likely that there are more women out there who he acted out impulsively, sexually with as well, who just didn't report it or.
And at this point, none of them have come out of the woodwork, but certainly it's a possibility. Let's go back into the courtroom now for more testimony. This is alleged victim number 5. Jameson, the victim's mother, Kendra Hatcher, the victim. Remember, she was the new girlfriend of the defendant's boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, Brenda Delgado, now on trial, looking at a life sentence in that case out of Texas. They are done for the day, but we're catching up on some of the stuff you might have missed. I have with me Dr. Carole Lieberman. Doctor, she's a forensic psychiatrist, so I'm going to ask you this, Doctor. When you see that kind of testimony, this woman has been reliving this now for years, and more recently, 6 months testify, 6 months testify. It's being brought home so painfully. Professionally, how do you deal with that? How do you help this person?
Well, first of all, I don't understand why they waited 2 hours to tell her what the tragedy was. That made things worse. But yes, of course, reliving it for each trial is horrendous as well. And what's so sad is that her daughter did nothing wrong. She just had the misfortune of meeting this doctor on an internet dating site, and he apparently didn't realize just how dangerous his ex-girlfriend was. So, it's just so unfair in so many ways, and obviously this mother, it seems like the daughter was sort of very special to the mother, kind of like, the love of her life, and she with the way she said Kendra, like she would be the last person who she thought something bad would happen to.
Yeah, she actually thought maybe it was her husband first. It's never the kids, right? Yeah, just so hard to watch, Doctor. Thank you for that insight. Let's go back into the courtroom now. Remember, this defendant, Brenda Delgado, sought out help from a lot of different folks until she finally found Crystal Cortez, who we've seen testify before. She drove the car that carried Christopher Love, the man that pulled the trigger, that killed Kendra Hatcher. So some of the folks were in the family that she approached. Let's listen to one of those. First up, we have Moses Martinez. This is the defendant's cousin. Jennifer Escobar is talking about how she was approached by Brenda Delgado and said, hey, can you help me with this little problem? I need to get Kendra Hatcher out of the way so I can get back with my boyfriend, Ricardo Paniagua. Dr. Carole Lieberman's with me. Doctor, what kind of person does this, by proxy, that gets somebody to do her dirty work for her?
Well, first of all, she was a woman scorned, sort of an extreme example of a woman scorned, and who also obviously watches a lot of criminal crime shows. She has all these different ways that she wants other people to kill Ricky and his current girlfriend. I guess she was afraid she wouldn't be able to carry it off. She didn't want to, she was hoping somebody else would take the rap and she could escape. In fact, she did, of course, try to escape to Mexico. She did escape to Mexico, but she was found. So I think she just had all these plots. She was going over this for months and months and had all these ways of trying to get the job done, killing one or both of them, and her escaping without any blame.
Yeah, I don't know. You'll have to give me the DSM-5 diagnosis here when we talk again in just a moment. But right now, let's go back into the courtroom. This is really the subject of all of the Brenda Delgado scheming and planning. This is Ricardo Paniagua. This is the ex-boyfriend. So there's Dr. Paniagua. That is the ex-boyfriend who broke up with the defendant by email. Probably not the smartest move, but I think he was afraid. He had seen her stalking activity that got him back together the second time around. Doctor, very quickly, give me a sense of DSM-3 diagnosis. What do you think Delgado's biggest issue is?
DSM-5.
Oh,
well,
5.
yes.
Sorry, I'm behind.
Yes, yes, clearly she does have sociopathic tendencies, because there is no sense of remorse at all. There's not even a sense that all these people who she's asking to help her, she doesn't seem to be worried that any of these people are going to be going to the police. Of course, she is carefully picking the people, whether they're relatives or people who are drug addicts or on hard times. So I guess
it seems like she's maybe to some degree a little arrogant about things. And I want to talk about this a lot more, Doctor, and we will next time we get together. I'm going to have to say goodbye, though, for now, okay? So thank you again, Dr. Carole Lieberman. I appreciate the time and the professional help that I need. Thank you. That's going to do it for me, folks. Going to say goodbye for the night. Aaron Keller coming up with the Daily Debrief. Don't forget the Kellen Winslow II closings tomorrow.